So with that, I have a few folks who'd like to say a few words. First of which is our honorary chairman. Now, some of you who've been around New Hampshire a while might know Tom Thompson, because his dad, former Governor Mel Thompson, who did such a fabulous job of making sure that everyone had burned into their brain the old expression, low taxes are the result of low spending. He kept it on his wall. If you go into the governor's lobby area right now, is the governor's portrait of right there is Governor Thompson's portrait right there over his shoulder is the sign he kept in his office, which says low taxes are the result of low spending. He meant it, he lived it, and Tom Thompson has been living that for quite a while now, and he's been doing a fantastic job helping us as our honorary chairman. I got to tell you what, you couldn't ask for someone who's a more passionate believer in the idea of limited government. So with that, Tom Thompson.
Thank you, Greg. This is actually the first event that I've been to as honorary chair since Greg has taken over as state director, and I really appreciate the good job that he's been doing. Thank you, Greg. Tonight, I just want to share a few words with you, my thoughts on the Obamacare. And tonight, I'm unveiling what was my father's axe. It was Axe the Tax. And we have now re-lettered it for this very important occasion.
Right.
This is, I think, what many folks believe about the Obamacare. And we want to repeal it, we want to axe it, and get rid of it, and start from scratch. I'm going to set this down for a second because I have a few words I'd like to share with you. On the left of me, I've got a few illustrations of the Obamacare bill. And as you see, it was 2,500 pages. Some say it's a little more, some say it's a little less. I guess that's how big or small the type you printed out on. But 2,500 pages is a pretty accurate account of the total bill. And if you remember, it was voted on before they read it. Remember Speaker Nancy Pelosi said, we've got to pass it before we can read it and understand what's in it. Well, that was just the beginning. Since then, they have been working nonstop in Washington, D.C., and they now, at this point, have 20,000. Those 4 boxes represent 8.5 by 11, 20,000 pages of rules and regulations. That's just what our small businesses need in New Hampshire and across this great nation. $714 billion will be taken out of Medicare, which should concern the elderly folks. Trillions will be added to our national debt, and our children and our grandchildren will be crushed with that debt. When Obamacare is fully implemented, it will amount to approximately 1/6 of our total economy, controlled and run by the government. That should make you sleep real well. Remember how well they're doing with such things as Amtrak or the Postal Service. The question I have for you folks, and I'm going to ask this across the state, do you want Obamacare?
No.
Neither do some of the Democrats, like Senator Max Baucus of Montana, who is not only a big supporter of Obamacare and the sponsor of the bill, now says it's going to be a train wreck. His term for Senate is up in 2014, but he's decided not to run. He's running for the hills of Montana. I wonder why. And then we've talked about another gentleman, Howard Dean, who was the former governor of Vermont and the chair of the Democratic National Committee. In a recent article in the Wall Street Journal, and you really ought to Google this and read it, he wants to do away with the Independent Advisory Board. These are his words, which is essentially a health care rationing body. Tell me, do you really want Obamacare?
No.
Then it was alluded to what I call a sweetheart deal by Obama in the House and Senate just recently on their health care. If Obamacare is good enough for us, why isn't it good enough for them who voted it in?
Here, here.
Remember, this president told us, the American people, that his administration was going to be the most honest, open, and transparent administration ever. You remember that? And all those scandals that we've been hearing about
Chicago.
are just phony scandals. Like Benghazi, the IRS, the Justice Department wiretaps on journalists. Any journalists here, you better be watching it. NSA spying on your emails and phone calls. Ask the parents of the ambassador and the 3 other Americans who were murdered by the terrorists while this president blamed it on a video, and to this day has not told us the truth. Ask the conservatives, the Tea Party folks, who have been harassed by the IRS. And yes, I was one of them. Were these scandals or just phony? Or the journalists whose phones were wiretapped without due process? Or the average American folks whose emails and phone calls have been recorded? Is this just a phony scandal? I don't think so. But this should make you feel better. Under Obamacare, our government will be hiring 16,000 additional IRS agents to enforce Obamacare on all of us. Do you really want Obamacare?
No!
Do you want to axe Obamacare?
Yes!
Let's say it loud enough so that our elected officials can hear you. Axe Obamacare. Come on, help me here. Axe Obamacare. If they don't hear us now, let's promise each other that they will hear from all of us on Election Day in 2014. Be sure to call your friends and family and encourage them to get out to the next 2 events. There's one on Thursday at 6:30 in Newcastle, New Hampshire, and again on Saturday at 1 p.m. in Hollis. Thank you again for coming out and being engaged in this important issue as we know Obamacare. Thank you.
Croc TV.